Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News. Good to see you. Come on in. Please remember to like the video and make sure that you are still subscribed. And you can support on PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, and of course Super Chat. Wow. Opened up my stream today to see the news. Prudence gave me the news that Tulsi had dropped out and endorsed Biden. Wow. It's a really weird situation because you seem to have everybody coalescing around Biden, the Democratic establishment, and even the non-establishment coalescing around Biden. Yang, Tulsi. We may even see Bernie drop out soon. I really hope that doesn't happen. And I don't know why they're doing this. They're also, Tulsi used the excuse that, it was clear that the people wanted Biden and not Bernie. And, owing to the widespread accounts of election tampering, fraud, vote flipping on machines, how is it even possible to say that? How is it possible to say that this is what the American people want? Is that really true? Is it really true that that's what they want? Of course, just crazy news coming fast and furious. So, even Jamal Thomas covered the Texas recount, I think yesterday or the day before, and the poll discrepancies. Jimmy Dore has been covering poll discrepancies, exit polls. Here's something I saw today out of Michigan. This is from a few days ago, by Theodore de Macedo-Sores. I think I'm not pronouncing that name correctly, but election results from the computerized vote counts of the 2020 Michigan Democratic Party presidential primary differed significantly from the results projected by the exit poll conducted by Edison Research and published by CNN at polls closing. The large discrepancies greatly exceed the margin of error for the exit poll projected differences between candidates. In this election, candidate Sanders underperformed his exit poll projected proportions by 15%, which is 5 times outside of the margin of error. Outside of 3%, that's generally an indication of some kind of fraud. So 5 times. Sanders consequently received 105,000 less votes than projected, and Biden and Bloomberg received 111,000 more votes than projected. Of concern is Michigan's destruction of the ballot images. So they destroyed the ballot images, so they can't have a recount now, like they're doing in Texas. They're suing to have a recount in Texas. The destruction appears to violate both federal and state laws, but hey, we're in a crisis. We're in an emergency. So, do we have... Oh my God, the fact that you're bringing this up. Oh my God. How dare you? I'm sure all the pearl clutchers and the outragers are going to be out in force. I mean, they're already out in force. Just completely ridiculous. Jimmy Dore just covered Illinois accidentally airing poll numbers the day before, which Nico House did a few days ago. Interestingly, and if you watch Jimmy Dore's video on this, he didn't notice, or maybe he didn't comment on the fact that the station's name is WCIA. He said WCIA. I was like, what? I looked it up. The station's name is WCIA. We're just not even going to hide it. The station's name is WCIA. And so here's another interesting thing I wanted to bring up about the election situation. Other than Twitter, other than people that run Bernie accounts or Warren accounts or Biden, nobody supports Biden. This is what also makes it weird that Biden is winning so handily. Because before he won South Carolina, nobody cared about Biden. Nobody was an outright Biden supporter. He had zero momentum, zero energy, zero crowd enthusiasm. Nobody cared about Biden. Nobody liked Biden. Nobody was vocally supporting Biden. And the first couple of primaries showed how little people actually gave a shit about Joe Biden. And then all of a sudden, everybody drops out and endorses Joe Biden, and suddenly he's acceptable. It just doesn't seem like reality to me. I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't seem real to me. So, I'm erring on the side of this is completely manufactured. And the manufacturing of his, electability or front runner status is creating this thing where it becomes an inevitability and everybody starts backing Joe Biden. But Tulsi backing Joe Biden is just, come on, man. Come on. There's so much wrong with that. He represents everything that she campaigned against. And how do you back Joe Biden? I just don't understand how you back Joe Biden. If you're Tulsi Gabbard, truly disheartening moment in politics. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to lead with the whole political discussion, guys, but here we are. Crystal Ball this morning suggested that Bernie drop out in exchange for a leadership role like the Democratic coronavirus czar, or leading the coronavirus response for the Democratic Party. She seemed to think that this would retain his political capital in order to for him to have some kind of force or will in the Democratic Party. I actually totally disagree with this. Because you know what? The Democratic Party is not going to agree to this. If he was like, I'm going to drop out, but you name me the coronavirus, response czar, they're going to be like, nope, no. They're going to, as soon as Bernie drops out, they're going to bury him. In the news media will bury Bernie Sanders. They won't cover him anymore. They won't talk about him anymore. It'll be very, very, very little to no coverage of Bernie Sanders or acknowledgement of Bernie Sanders. He'll be moved back to, the guy screaming from the corner of the Senate chambers. I don't think he should do that at all. I think the way he keeps his power is stay in the race and keep calling out the DNC, keep calling out the Democratic Party, keep calling out the Trump administration, and keep calling out he should stay in the race and insist that the polls, the primaries be postponed, whether people call him a sore loser or not. He should stay in the race and keep pushing for his agenda. So here's another thing, Bernie's political capital. Here's what Bernie's political capital has done. Bernie Sanders called for invoking the Defense Production Act to ramp up production of needed supplies in his speech on the coronavirus last night. This is actually from, they're talking about not last night, but the night before, Tuesday night. So Trump, Bernie Sanders calls for the Defense Production Act. Trump then invokes the Defense Production Act. So he's already signed this into law. Trump has already invoked this Production Act, basically forcing any and all industries with the capacity to put out more supplies to fight coronavirus to do so. It's like a wartime implementation of corralling all your industrial forces in order to fight against a common enemy. The common enemy being coronavirus right now. So Bernie Sanders has plenty of political capital right now, and he shouldn't drop out. He should absolutely stay in. He should call out the DNC for forcing people to vote. He should insist that the next, couple of primary rounds be called off. Why should he do this? Because they've already done it themselves. There's already a precedent. So he doesn't have to take on the mantle of being the sore loser. He can say, look at these primaries already calling off. These guys are actually, taking the lead in doing something extremely logical. So why don't we just go ahead and do that? I insist that we do that. He's still in the presidential race. They're not going to force him out. And they can't call off the primaries and just coronate Joe Biden. I don't think that they would do that. Or would they? Bum, bum, bum. Or would they? Would they do something so drastic? Get ready for all the nonsense to come to the fore. Somebody reposted one of my videos on Facebook, and there was a comment underneath saying, like, I think it's terrible to use a pandemic to push a political agenda. It was my video talking about coronavirus giving us socialism, or the answer to coronavirus being socialism. Whatever. I told this person to, keep up with the outrage and the pearl clutching. She didn't even watch the video, I'm sure. And she probably didn't get what I was saying, which is the response which has already been given. Not something that I'm pushing for, not something that, I'm insisting happen as a response. It's the response that's already happened. The response is, oh, what about UBI? The response is, oh, what about, free medical care for everybody? Oh, what about giving out free masks and free supplies and, taking care of people and giving people homes? That's the response already. That response is socialism. It's already been done. It's not something I'm, using the pandemic to fight for. It's something that's already been done. So again, the precedent has been set. I'm just using the precedent to say, like, look at all these social programs that are being put in place to fight this coronavirus. That's the answer. The answer has already been socialism. Not we should use socialism. It's already been used. So, whatever. People are stupid, and stupid people are just going to keep on stupid peopling. Just keep on stupid peopling, because that's what people do. One more thing. This has turned into a whole political thing. I'm going to get into some climate change news shortly. One more thing I wanted to say about this election. Have you noticed that there have been no snap polls on the internet hosted by any large company, CNN or, whatever, NBC or even Fox News? No snap polls, right? So they do these, they do these polls that are regulated and, sanctioned by, certain parties or colleges or institutions. They read those polls. And they're all over the place. And, on Twitter, they might do a poll, Biden or Bernie or Warren supporters, not Biden supporters, Warren or Bernie supporters will do a poll, a snap poll. But CNN, remember in 2016, I remember this very distinctly. In 2016, CNN did a poll when it was Bernie Sanders against Hillary Clinton in the primary. And the poll was, the result of the poll was Bernie Sanders 82%, Hillary Clinton 12%. And they took it down immediately. They took it down within a couple of hours. They were like, oops, we don't want anybody to see that. Because that's actually the sentiment of the country. So all this other stuff is bullshit, right? All the polls are bullshit. All the results are bullshit. All the, everything else is bullshit, right? This is the real sentiment. And if you want to say like, oh, well, there's different people online than there are that are at home that are not online. Okay. Let's say that has a margin of error of 20%. Let's say the margin of error of that snap poll is 20%, which is an absolutely enormous margin of error, right? Gigantic margin of error. Even at 20%, Bernie Sanders still wins, by 30 or 40%. He wins, it's still a landslide, overwhelming victory. Okay, so, Hillary Clinton wins the nomination. Wins. they do another snap poll, Hillary Clinton against Trump. It's the same numbers. It's like Trump 82, Hillary Clinton 8 or 10 or whatever it was. Again, this shows the real sentiment of the country. This was the reality of how people felt, and all the other polls were bullshit. All the other all the other news, all the polls, all the ramping up, they're neck and neck, all that stuff was bullshit. They weren't neck and neck. It was 80% Trump, 12% Hillary. That's what the actual that's what the sentiment of the country was. So this year, no snap polls. I haven't seen one. Internet online snap poll. Hey guys, we're doing a snap poll today. Who do you think is going to win? No. They could not let that happen. They would not let that happen. This is all, everything is manufactured. It's completely manufactured. So, and I question the poll results out of Florida being 90% counted 3 hours after the polls close. I don't even think they were closed yet. I mean, I was guessing that they closed at 6, which they usually close at 8. But at 9 o'clock p.m., when the polls close at 8, you had 90% of the precincts reporting. Really? Really, did you? And they had the similar numbers of voters as they did in 2016. So you had the similar amount of votes to count. And you reported, in other states, California, other states where Bernie Sanders won or it was really close, it took weeks to conduct all the, to get all the results in. Weeks. In Texas, it took, days and days and days and days. But in Florida, it took 1 hour, 1 hour to get 90% of the polls in. Bullshit. Are you guys noticing this? Is anybody, paying attention to this? Clearly quite a few are not. Anyways, were some of the things I wanted to start talking about. Say hello to people. TCR Galaxy, what a shit show. Come on, Tulsi, indeed. Anthropomorphic facsimile. Love the handle. It's hard to say. Anthropomorphic. Say that 10 times fast. Hola, chicos. Yeah. The Dude. Russ Taylor. John Lundqvist. Natural Progressive. Hello, how you doing? So I'm going to be a guest on the Natural Progressive show tonight at 5 p.m. Are we doing Pacific? I don't know what we decided. I was saying 5 p.m. my time, so I think that's Pacific. So you guys can, hear me again later tonight. Woody Moniker. Going South, how you doing? Echoes of Not, what's up? Russ Taylor. Boiled rope lamppost. Yep. We all. Now we're all knowing the bad news. The Dude. Then again, Bernie ignored her this whole time. That is true. That's actually true. As over the last few weeks, I've learned to kind of be a little bit grumpy about Bernie, and I'm feeling grumpy about Bernie. I still support him. I still think he's the best candidate for the job, but he's done some things that have shown some political cowardice, and nobody is perfect. He's an authentic individual, but he's done some things that have made me question his actual commitment to progressive policies or fortitude in the face of the opposition, and that makes me feel very sad. But I still love Bernie Sanders, and I still want him to keep fighting. I still want him to stay in the race and keep fighting. He could do better. I'm just saying, he's in the race. He's still in the race. He can do better. Prudhomme says the dark tyranny of Russia has paper ballots, overnight counting, and international observers. Boom. In a few states, they called off the exit polls, the DNC. Oh, I wonder why. So no oversight whatsoever on these elections. Calling off exit polls. We don't have any observers in this country. I would, if I were a progressive candidate like Tulsi or Bernie, I would be demanding that there be international organizations observing our elections. I would be demanding paper ballots. I would be demanding, election reform. I would be demanding expanding of polling locations and not contracting. I mean, come on. Um, yes, okay. So tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific, I will be on the Natural Progressive channel. We'll be talking about the things. Yeah, I just, you know, I'm feeling like, he could have fought harder, but then again, 2020 is, hindsight is 2020, and what are you going to do? I mean, he was kind of riding high like 2 months ago, and it was looking like his strategy was actually the good strategy because he was suddenly in the lead and everybody was fading. And he might have overwhelmed, the media and the corporate establishment. Not so much. It didn't work out that way. So, what do you do? So, let's go further on. Let me see. I had a few things to talk about. Oh, let me start off with some viewer comments. Had a couple of comments I wanted to read from yesterday. This is from Witty Moniker. We should really only be afraid of wildlife if we exist in an abusive separatist culture. Otherwise, there is nothing to fear from the natural world. The idea of separation between species is something that we made up with our overanalyzing, cortex-heavy neuronal clusters. Delve into a different type of consciousness and we can become part of the original collective once again. Death becomes part of regeneration. The cycle continues. We are part of a greater organism. The loss of connection is what actually really plagues us. Anthropogenic climate change, pestilence, the possibility of an atomic war. These are all real threats, and they are all caused by our disconnection from the earth. The greater organism that we are all part of. This, of course, is in response to, did habitat destruction bring on the coronavirus? The video I did last night. Our too little, too late, last minute reconnective attempt is important as a collective, but our individual connections to the earth matter an incredible amount as well. It may be in maybe more profound ways. Those who are deeply wounded often seek nature to heal themselves. Why is this? Find any rational scientific reason to justify this truth. But we will always know why deep in our souls. We are all seeking our home. What can we do to heal ourselves as individuals? We are all part of a greater whole, and our individual wholeness does affect the greater organism. The idea of separation is the plague. Reconnect to the earth wherever you can. That is the only solution I can see. We can't control the outcomes of rigged elections. We can't stop the elite from controlling the economy. We can't pluck the individual carbon atoms out of the atmosphere, but we can heal ourselves and the earth by being as close to the earth as we can, as much as we can. Who knows if this will have a significant impact of the outcome of the sixth mass extinction in the long run. But we can also see the real-time results in our own bodies and immediate environments on a near-term basis. Since we are part of a greater whole, these little wins should be seen as something significant. Thanks for letting me rant. Stay safe, everyone. I rather like that comment. I like the message of it, and I appreciate it. Yes. I really want to emphasize the fact that, everything is connected, reconnecting and seeing the connection between everything. Is something that I talk about often, but something I'd like to focus on more, which is why, probably my new intro line is going to be Welcome to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Or maybe we are all connected or something like that. Because I can't emphasize that message enough. There was also a comment from our good friend Marty McCorkle. I have a good friend struggling for his life in intensive care. The famous celebrity meme, how are you going to pay for that? He's having a hard time breathing, and before you start cheering about him getting the coronavirus, remember that how are you going to pay for that has been a very important meme in denying health care to us American peasants, who would probably spend their health without contributing to the system's march to collective suicide, which would be an economic disaster very much like the current one. I'm still very shaken up about how are you going to pay for that being in critical condition. We are on the back nine when how are you going to pay for that sneezed so hard that his toupee flew in the direction of Capistrano. I've been considering consoling his wife, the meme, I told you so. She received the news with an eye roll, her arms crossed. Between you and me, I always feel small around her. How are you going to pay for that, son? I have no empathy for millennials, is conferring with the family attorney about daddy's will. Inheriting a huge bundle helps in pretending at being a ruggedly independent American, something a wealthy never is. You may wonder why I hang out with my ideological opponents. Wake up. Behind the scenes, we YouTube commenters are just like the two faces of this single American political party. It's just a show based on a written script, like when Pelosi made that meanie old face and tears up sheets of paper at the end of the State of the Union, or the State of the Onion. Let me read that correctly. It's meaningless kabuki theater for the American peasants. Dems impeached the golden dumpster fire over a Ukraine phone call while we are up to our nipples with far greater presidential outrages. Politics is a vaudeville show, and so are YouTube comments. There, I said it. We're opposing commenters. The climate aware and climate change deniers laugh it up together at barbecues, wine caves, and rounds of golf, and our kids are best friends, just like Trump's and Biden's contributions to overpopulation. These revelations are sure to get me fired from McCorkle's corner, but my boss is a total ass, and as the poll station official concluded his unconvincing reasons for closing voting stations, I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. Besides, McCorkle's corner pays very little. In fact, it does not pay at all, and I can be very principled when money is not involved. Right now, I care only for my good friend, the meme, how are you going to pay for that? Hopefully he recovers fast and can steer us away from the folly of helping each other through this crisis. We need to stand as rugged, independent individuals, free to break lockdown, to spread disease, just like the George Washington when he crossed the Delaware to cough on Prussian mercenaries before taking over British airports in the Battle of LaGuardia, 1781, and crowding British soldiers inside of it for hours to get temperature screenings, thus winning the Revolutionary War against old King George's tyrannical plague lockdowns. Our history warns against collective health measures being the same as goose-stepping tyranny. If you can trust your government not to screw you out of more rights following a crisis, as it did through the last crisis, who can you trust? Don't agree? Then you are a liar, and I can do push-ups to prove these historical facts, fat. And if the facts are wrong, it's my administration's fault, not mine, and I take no responsibility for what is happening. 2 demented enter, 1 demented leaves. Speaking of voting, for 2 compromised brains, it's time to go cough on ballot machines, voting staff, and voters. Don't worry, I'm shooting viral blanks, maybe. But who knows about testing? We MAGA-landers don't do virus testing because how are you going to pay for it? What? Hey, look, my favorite meme has recovered. Now us 2 can hunt for his toupee and finish our golf game. It makes me feel so much better, except for this dry cough and fever. Now where's my golf sand wedge and the N95 mask that has to last me for 15 months? Globalism's long supply chains are great until a crisis. Then they're as useless as Trump. Good luck, everyone. Hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did. That was an amazing comment by Martin McCorkle. Excuse me. So getting on to the various and sundry. Let me see. Where are we? No, I'm not trying to buy a computer. I don't know why that's there. So interesting news out of Gavin Newsom's mouth. Governor of California prepared to enact martial law if it's a necessity, governor says. So this is all over Facebook today, and people are kind of scared out of their boots by this. A lot of people are saying, like, dude, stay indoors. Don't give the governor any reason to enact martial law. Please, let's avoid this. California has prepared for the worst case scenarios as the coronavirus pandemic heightens, including the possibility of enacting martial law. So hold on a second, though. I want to just bring up the salient point. I think it's salient that this is a Democrat in a supermajority Democrat state suggesting martial law might be the order of the day. You know, Trump's response to coronavirus aside, as fumbling as it is has not said anything about martial law. And you know, I think I haven't heard a lot of Republicans bring up let's do martial law. I don't know if that's a good response to coronavirus or not. What say you? I mean, is it necessary? Is it really going to slow the pandemic? I mean, we have South Korea doing fighting coronavirus with massive testing. You know, Italy's on lockdown, but you know, about as on lockdown as we are, right? It's like, don't go anywhere. People stay indoors. Social distancing. You know, you can still go to the store, but you got to stay far apart from each other. But they're not doing like martial law. There's not like military on the streets, you know, telling people to go home. So this is a little bit wild, I think. Governor Gavin Newsom said during a press conference on Tuesday he would consider implementing martial law if it was necessary to curb the novel virus. We have the ability to do martial law if we feel the necessity, he says. Issuing martial law would be an unprecedented move, rarely used by officials in U.S. history. If enacted, it would temporarily replace civil rule with military authority. The precedent for martial law in the U.S. states certain civil liberties may be suspended, such as the right to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures, freedom of association, and freedom of movement. Yeah, so that's a little wild, because what would that mean for people trying to like go to the store or, you know, I mean, people are out kind of conducting business, you know, not in a large gathering sense, but they're, you know, some people are taking precautions, some others are not. I think that's why a lot of people are saying like, hey guys, let's be really careful so we don't, and we don't give anybody a reason for this, but I think that's fairly wild. I don't know if that's necessary. Here's something that's interesting and good news for Canadians flabbergasted. Chase Bank forgives all credit card debt for Canadian customers. This is from, what the hell? Say what? Okay, scrap this. This is not current news. Sorry, somebody posted this as if it was current news. And once in a while, I don't look at the date. So sorry, we're going to go back. Rewind. Coronavirus cases. And that I'm not even going to go into the story because it's not worth it. I mean, it might be worth it in another video, but not right now. 226,000 cases total. 9,285 deaths total. Recovered 85,000. If you look at the logarithmic increase in coronavirus cases, it kind of looks like the global temperature. It kind of looks like the global temperature over the last few decades. Going straight up. And straight up to today. So by country, so new cases, China is down to 34 new cases as of yesterday. So again, China is going down the other side. Italy did not report how many new cases it has, but it has almost as many total deaths as China. 2,978. China has 3,245. They are still in the thick of it, but they're not reporting new deaths or new cases. So I don't know why that is. Iran has 1,046 new cases, so they are in the middle of an exponential spike. They have 1,284 deaths, 149 new deaths yesterday. Iran is suffering, and we still have not lifted sanctions on them. Spain, 2,378 new cases, 767 deaths, plus 129 yesterday. So Spain is actually experiencing an uptick. Germany is also experiencing an uptick in cases, plus 1,305. They're only at 33 total deaths, plus 5 yesterday. USA, only at 205 new cases yesterday. So, I'd say that's somewhat significant because, we'll see how that transforms over the next few weeks. But, that is plus 205, but that's not a whopping number like 1,000 or 2,000 plus. We have 155 total deaths, plus 5 yesterday. Same as Germany. South Korea, plus 152. So they've gone down the ladder a little bit in reporting new cases. 91 total deaths, plus 7 yesterday. Other countries, let me see, that are experiencing upticks: Switzerland, Austria. The UK is not reporting new cases, but has 108 deaths, almost as many as the US, plus 4 yesterday, almost as many as the US. Austria, 197 cases. Belgium, 309 in Belgium, plus 7 deaths, 21 deaths total. They seem to be ramping up. The fact that Belgium has more new cases than the USA total probably means that they are also in a spike. Norway, plus 113. Malaysia, plus 113. Portugal, plus 143. Australia, plus 113. 6 total deaths. Luxembourg, plus 132. Plus 2 deaths yesterday. So tiny Luxembourg is also experiencing a spike, with many other nations getting a few, scatterings of new cases here and there. Looking at crude oil prices, crude oil is down to $22 from last night. So the WTI crude went down another $1.50. Brent crude went down almost another $1. Mars is down still at $16, which is crazy. OPEC is at 30. Let's see. Where is boiled rope lamppost testing is lagging in some places? Yeah, I'm sure some of the places that have lower, and maybe the U.S. being low on the new reported cases is due to testing. I'm sure. Natural Progressive, it's hard to listen to Trump Tard and Kevin at the same time. Why are you listening to Trump Tard? Is he speaking right now? Apparently, I got to time my live streams better or something. Yeah, good point about the testing. Maybe the U.S., the new cases in the U.S. total being due to testing, but it looks like even the total deaths, we have a few more than the U.K., but the U.K. being a much smaller country, indicates that, so, maybe it's just a little bit slower here. We have pockets where it's, taking hold faster than other places. Natural Progressive says Utah just tested 1,100 people, mostly the rich in Park City, 63 cases. Well, that's all, what is that? A quarter or more of the total cases in the U.S. So I guess if you test people, you're going to find more cases. Yesterday, all of Virginia only tested 425. Prudhomme says, yeah, time them better. Boris Johnson is on later. Well, I did my live stream last night when Jimmy Dore was on live, and I think a lot of people were watching Jimmy Dore. But whatever. I mean, I'm doing them, at the best possible time for me. So sorry to conflict. There's a lot, there's a lot of news going on. There's a lot of TV stations reporting, kind of giving out emergency reports. There's a lot of YouTubers out there doing live streams every day, all day. What can I say? I'm doing my best. Zoxalix says we could see oil drop below $10 soon. Irk1 says talks the most, says the least. Who talks the most and says the least? I see. Trump. Prudhomme says Russia is ready to bear low oil prices. That's what they told Saudi Arabia to F off. Saudi Arabia is also saying the same thing, though. They're saying F off. We can deal with $12 gas or $12 oil. Yeah, gas prices dropping daily. That's one of the silver linings of this. Although, if we have martial law lockdown, then it won't really matter. There will be nowhere to go and no one to buy gas, so it won't matter. Let's see. I wanted to. Well, I'm going to cover a few more things. But where is my article? Here we go. So this is the article that I really intended to lead with. I don't know if this is going to give us any more information than we already have, but this is from today. Coronavirus, air pollution, and CO2 fall rapidly as virus spreads. Levels of air pollutants and warming gases over some cities and regions are showing significant drops as coronavirus impacts work and travel. Researchers in New York told the BBC their early results showed carbon monoxide, mainly from cars, had been reduced by nearly 50% compared with last year. Emissions of the planet heating gas CO2 have also fallen sharply. But there are warnings levels could rise rapidly after the pandemic. With global economic activity ramping down as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, it's hardly surprising that emissions of a variety of gases related to energy and transport would be reduced. Scientists say that by May, when CO2 emissions are at their peak thanks to the decomposition of leaves, the levels recorded might be the lowest since the financial crisis over a decade ago. So they show the picture over China between the comparison between January and February. Almost clear skies in China as compared to a huge cloud of smog. While it is early days, data collected in New York this week suggests that instructions to curb unnecessary travel are having a significant impact. Traffic levels in the city were estimated to be down 35% compared with a year ago. Emissions of carbon monoxide, mainly due to cars and trucks, have fallen by around 50% for a couple of days this week, according to researchers at Columbia University. So, they have also found that there was a 5 to 10% drop in CO2 over New York and a solid drop in methane as well. Wow. New York has had exceptionally high carbon monoxide numbers. So that's interesting because if there's a drop in methane, there might be a drop in, heating from that, but, offsetting a spike in temperatures due to lack of Aerosol masking, who knows? New York has had exceptionally high carbon monoxide numbers for the last year and a half, said Professor Roisin Comain from Columbia University, who carried out the New York air monitoring work. And this is the cleanest I've ever seen it. It is less than half of what we normally see in March. Well, that's good. Yes. At least for, the immediate action of breathing. Although there are a number of caveats to these findings, they echo the environmental impacts connected to the virus outbreaks in China and in Italy. An analysis carried out for the climate website Carbon Brief suggested there had been a 25% drop in energy use and emissions in China over a 2-week period. This is likely to lead to an overall fall of about 1% in China's carbon emissions this year, experts believe. Both China and northern Italy have also recorded significant falls in nitrogen dioxide, which is related to reduced car journeys and industrial activity. The gas is both a serious air pollutant and a powerful warming chemical. So there you go. There might be a little bit of offsetting of, the lack of global dimming, right? If we're seeing lower methane and nitrogen dioxide levels. So again, this is, it's a complex set of processes all interacting to give us what result we don't know yet, because we're not going to really have a clearer picture probably until March or April. I mean, it is March, April or May, of how the lack of global dimming, maybe even June, July, about how the lack of global dimming has affected the overall global temperature. With aviation grinding to a halt, millions of people working from home, a range of emissions across many countries are likely to follow the same downward path. While people working from home will likely increase the use of home heating and electricity, the curbing of commuting and the general slowdown in economies will likely have an impact on overall emissions. I expect we will have the smallest increase in May to May peak CO2 that we've had in the Northern Hemisphere since 2009 or before, said Professor Comain. This view is echoed by others in the field who believe that the shutdown will impact CO2 levels for the whole of this year. It will depend on how long the pandemic lasts and how widespread the slowdown is in the economy, particularly in the U.S. But most likely, I think we will see something in the global emissions this year, said Professor Corinne Lequere from the University of East Anglia. If it lasts another 3 to 4 months, we could see some reduction. Excuse me. What's likely to make a major difference to the scale of carbon emissions and air pollution is how governments decide to re-stimulate their economies once the pandemic eases. Back in 2008-09, after the global financial crash, carbon emissions shot up by 5% as a result of stimulus spending that boosted fossil fuel use. Exactly. Well, that was a little different because actually oil bottomed out right around then. I remember it was up at like $4 a gallon and then went all the way down to like $2.50. And there was no, lockdowns. There's no quarantine. So everybody was like, whoa, gas is cheap again. Let's go, wherever. Let's go for a drive. In the coming months, governments will have a chance to alter that outcome. It could insist, for instance, that any bailout of airlines would be tied to far more stringent reductions in aviation emissions. Governments now have to be really cautious on how they re-stimulate their economies, mindful of not locking in fossil fuels again, said Professor Lequere. They should focus those things that are ready to go that would lower emissions, like renovating buildings, putting in heat pumps and electric chargers. These are not complicated and can be done straight away. They're just waiting for financial incentives. However, some argue that if the pandemic goes on a long time, any stimulus would most likely focus on promoting any economic growth, regardless of the impact on the environment. Of course, any economic stimulus is going to be willy-nilly unless, a steady hand is in charge, a steady hand of, say, Bernie Sanders. However, some argue that if the pandemic goes on a long time, I just read that. I certainly think climate could go on the back burner. In this case, I don't think there's much hope that stimulus goes to clean energy. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and you're using it for political purposes. You're using it to talk about climate change. How dare you? Any stimulus will help those with job losses, such as tourism and services. I think this is very different to the global financial crisis. The only silver linings could be to learning new practices to work remotely. Yes, buying fewer years of lower growth, allowing and buying a few years of lower growth, allowing solar and wind to catch up a bit. Though these may be rather small silver linings. Yeah, so good news on that front, but maybe not. Again, this could be a good lesson in learning how to reduce. I mean, I can already see people though that are, self-isolating on quarantine, and they're like, I can't stand it. What am I going to do? I got to get out of here. Help me. So everybody's chomping at the bit to go out and buy things and do things. Russ Taylor says cheap oil may mean fields of solar panels being left to the crows. Zoxalic says the law that the government signed, is this something that was recent in the last couple of days or some other law? I can't remember the name of, allows the government to come in your home at will and confiscate all your food and anything else they need for themselves. Well, after 9/11, there was some, the National Defense Act kind of allowed the government, the government free will in enacting like martial law or military law, and arresting anybody who they deem as a terrorist. They actually have laws in place that are quite draconian if they feel like, there's a reason to implement them, say a massive pandemic or say an economic meltdown, the likes of which we've never seen, or, et cetera, et cetera. Jenny Malloy says thousands die of the flu every year. Pandemic is a smokescreen to enact martial law. I mean, possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. The dude says exactly, Kevin, we got to get people back to work no matter what. Who could stand in the way of that? Zoxalic says, yes, just yesterday. Trump signed the law. Okay, wow. I will look into that and see what exactly it says, because that's frightening. Zoxalic says they can take over all businesses too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certainly this situation is a really good excuse to ramp up any and all, surveillance, intelligence monitoring, any kind of, military action if they deem it necessary. Sure, I totally see. I wouldn't be surprised at, say, California enacting martial law. I really hope that doesn't happen, because that would really, really suck. Because, I'm not really interacting with a lot of people, but I still have relative freedom to go do whatever it is I need to do. And martial law would really, really suck, because it would just really fuck up everything. I'm still trying to conduct business. I'm still trying to make music, do live streams, still trying to conduct business on some level, still trying to, put out an album. I'm recording a record. I'm trying to put it out. So martial law would be really bad for that. So yeah, no, thank you. So it isn't the flu, but interestingly enough, I think I talked about this a couple of days ago, that the meme going around that had the numbers of people infected and people that died during the H1N1 avian flu. I think that's what it was. Or was that swine flu? I can't remember. But, the H1N1 flu, when Obama was in office, there's a meme going around about how many people died and how, we didn't enact martial law or shut people down or quarantine people. I mean, quite a few people died. Let's see if I can find the numbers. Hold on. H1N. Let's see. So the H1N1 killed 18,000 people, which is, more than has died from this current virus. Is that right? Am I right or am I wrong? Let me see. Yeah, it's double what this current virus has done. And I think it infected, I don't know how many people it infected in the U.S. Let me see. $22 million Americans were infected with H1N1. 4,000 Americans died. Could COVID get to those numbers? Very possibly, sure. However, people weren't self-isolating, put on quarantine, and, the entire country wasn't on lockdown. So, I'm sure there are reasons. Maybe, of course, there are differences between maybe those viruses, but I don't know. Are there major differences in how the viruses are acting? Are there, why the huge difference in how we are reacting to it? Is there some level of, fear mongering or scaring the entire populace into something that they, just like 9/11, you do something really major and you have everybody like, like this, and then you can do whatever you want. You can, we have to invade Iraq, or we have to enact the NDAA. We have to, do something really, dramatic, overwhelming to combat, to help quell the fear and, combat this enemy, right? I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Jenny Malloy, I didn't say it was real, wasn't real. My sister's an RN. I said it was being used. Exactly. So the difference in the reaction, I mean, the meme was trying to make it seem like, Obama was calm. Like, this isn't, the reaction to it isn't Trump's reaction. I mean, China, like, they built, I think, special hospitals for that flu as well. China's reaction was pretty huge to this. The reaction of Trump actually tried to downplay the reaction to this, and it was everybody else saying, like, we got to do this. So it's an interesting, I don't know, it was just an interesting meme. I just was kind of like, I don't really get this necessarily, but Arkanduit's John Dulewski, when will this crisis end? Do countries need 0 cases or what? That will never happen. Well, yeah. So when here's another story, and I'll probably go more into depth with this because I'm almost out of time on this video. So here's the story from Bloomberg. This is from yesterday. As China's virus cases reach 0, which they are almost at 0, they had 34 new cases yesterday. Experts warn of a second wave. So they've almost kind of, stamped it down, tamped it down. Not stamped it out, but China has no new infections of the coronavirus domestically for the first time since the start of a crisis that has sickened 80,000 Chinese people. But what could be a sign of the country has defeated the fatal pathogen is likely to be a temporary reprieve. So, basically they're worried that this is going to come back or there's going to be a second wave. The nature of the particular virus also raises the risk of resurgence. Coronavirus is harder to detect and lingers longer than the one that caused severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, 2003, which infected 8,000 people before fading out. That will make future waves of the new pandemic more difficult to prevent. There were no new cases reported Thursday in Wuhan. There have been no new cases in the rest of the country for 7 days. A dramatic plunge from the height of an outbreak that killed more than 3,000 and caused a historic economic contraction. The concern is what will happen after they end these measures. Yeah, so this is I don't know. Sure, okay, you have to be careful. You have to keep an eye on it. You have to keep maybe testing people. You have to keep maybe centers open for people to get tested. Keep a quarantine facility. Sure, but you don't have to. Kansas canceling school for the rest of the year. That's an overreaction. Absolutely, that's an extreme overreaction. Because China is already on the other side of this. South Korea is already on the other side of this. It's only been, a month in the month or two range. So we're gonna do this, all this stuff, quarantine, hopefully test people, have facilities, have medical care for people, right? So, but we're gonna ramp all this up, and we're still ramping it all up, but by May or June, we're going to be on the other side of this. Okay, so maybe you want to cancel the rest of the school year. All right, sure. But cancel the entire year until the end of the year, that's just ridiculous. That's over the top. And that actually sets a precedent for people to be more over the top. For people to be like, well, we don't know what, we'll never get back to normal. We'll never, ever, we'll never be out of this. We have to keep up this emergency condition. This also sets up a precedent for, somebody, lobbing a throw into the end zone, way into the future about, we should cancel the election, the presidential election, right? I mean, it's freaking, what is it, 7 months away? 8 months away, the presidential election? It's far from now. But if, people are talking about it now, that would be ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's 8 months from now. Anyways. Yeah, I'm just saying, we're doing a lot of ramping up of control, containment. And, once it's contained, or once we get on the other side of the bell curve, then it's about prevention. Then it's about, testing and keeping an eye on it. It's not about canceling an entire, school season. It's out of control. That is out of control. Prudhomme says 2,000 elderly people died in the U.S. last summer from symptoms of lung damage similar to coronavirus. It was attributed to vaping. Many clusters around Fort Detrick, Maryland. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I mean, it is somewhat, this is being levered into something of, panic attack that may or may not be justified. I'm not saying don't be careful. I'm not saying don't take precautions. I'm not saying don't self-quarantine. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm not saying don't get tested. I'm not saying go to the hospital if you feel bad. Do all of those things. But this might be just a little bit of an overblown reaction to this. Irk1 says martial law is the only way climate change will be addressed, and it will never be officially declared in response to climate change. Because you have gun nut right-wingers armed and ready, pandemic works. Well, so, okay, here's a conspiracy theory. Everybody know, all the officials, the elites know that climate change is real. The military, the corporations, everybody knows that climate change is real. So a pandemic starts and they go, oh, this is a great excuse to enact martial law around the country and to change our entire financial system and to say while we're here, maybe we should address this climate change thing. I don't hold out any, realistic hope that that's actually what's happening, but who knows? Zoxelic says it's not over the top. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I disagree. It's over the top. It's over the top. I mean, it's not, I'm saying it's not over the top to have a reaction. Like China did way more than we did as far as their immediate reaction to it. Although they, look, there was a ramp up of reaction. So they started in like December and January, and it took until February for them to be like, all right, we're going to close down the whole country and we're going to build hospitals and do this. But now it's March and they're on the other side of it. That's, you react to it, you do what you can around it, and then it, it tapers off. This is not, I think if they do, they are starting to kind of get back to normal in China, and they will start to get back to normal. It's going to take a little while. It's going to take a month or two. The dude says overreaction is necessary because the delay between infection and symptoms, we cannot trust info coming in from China. Well, yeah, I mean, sure. But the thing is that they're not going to fake that there's no new cases. I don't think that, I think that would be hard to fake. Apple would not open all its stores in China. That's a global, corporation. If they witnessed that people were still dying and there was, thousands of cases and everything was in complete chaos, they wouldn't be opening their stores. They'd only open their stores if they thought it looked like things were kind of settling down. I don't know. I'm just kind of like I'm just trying to give an overview of everything. I'm trying to zoom out on all this. And is the virus worth being careful about? Absolutely. But, don't cancel school for the entire year. They're going to walk that back. They're going to have to walk that back because there's no way. There's no way if proper prevention and proper care is taken in the face of this virus, by summertime, things will be kind of getting back to normal. And there's, they're going to be like, oh, we canceled it. Why did we do that? I mean, cancel school right now. They're canceling school right now. That's not over the top. I'm saying canceling school for the entire year, is like, it's a little dopey. It's way, way out there. Because you're just saying, oh, we're not going to be able to get past this for 10 months. Come on. Come on. I mean, be rational. Slightly rational. Yeah, it's Oxalix. What's over the top is the force rolling out while the stock market crashes. I mean, I'm saying that, if you don't question some of these actions, I question the martial, though, Gavin Newsom saying that we might need martial law. I highly question that. I think that's a little ridiculous. And it's a precedent that you don't want to start setting for the entire country, right? To do, to be like, oh my God, oh, it's a virus that is going to, is going to hurt people. It's going to take people down, and we're doing our best not to let people die or get sick, hopefully. But eventually there's going to be another side to it. It's already proven in other countries there's another side to it. So, come on. Taking those examples and extrapolating them to everywhere else, right? If there's a curve to it, right? It goes up. Everybody's like, oh my God. And then you go down, right? That's what's happening in other countries, in China and South Korea. Just look at what's happening. Christian Sorensen says, I'd rather have an overblown reaction than a virus running rampant through my country, completely crashing. Yeah, I'm not saying don't react to the virus. I'm saying don't cancel school for an entire year. I'm saying some things are a little bit over the top. The dude, Americans do not follow suggestions or requests or admonishments. Americans don't give a fuck. They want their goddamn chicken sandwiches and shit. Hence, enforced quarantines necessary. Well, okay, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. They don't, people are still out. I was out yesterday and people were still out like, whoop-de-doo. If you didn't actually close down bars and restaurants, people would be out in bars and restaurants. I agree with you. But martial law is a little bit like, martial law means, a suspension of, civil rights on some level. So. Anthropomorphic facsimile over the top to cancel the rest of the school year. No, I'm not talking about the rest of this. Kansas canceled school until. Am I right about this or am I wrong? They canceled school, I think, until like next year. Am I tripping? Maybe I got this one wrong. Hold on. We're not going. Some schools closed for coronavirus are not going back for the rest of the academic year. Okay. So there's not much left in the academic year. And I probably could see that happening. What I thought I saw was that Kansas had canceled school until like next year, until 2021. That's what I was saying was over the top. If it's just for the rest of the academic year, that's not that big of a deal. Let's see. Sean McKenna says, oh, wait. Sorry, I lost this. Yes, the dude. Okay, sorry. So, I saw somewhere that they had canceled school until 2021, which I thought was over the top, but it looks like they just is the rest of the year. The rest of the year, it is actually like 3 more months. Whatever. Zoxalix, yeah, sure. If I'm in denial, whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong. No, I'm not underinformed on this, Zox. Sorry, I'm not. I'm looking at reality, bro. I'm looking at reality. In China, they have gone way down on their cases. South Korea has gone way down on their cases. Those were the first 2 countries to get hit really hard, and they had a response to it, and now their cases are going down. They're going in the opposite direction. That's reality, bro. So you're underinformed. You're not looking at reality. Jesus Christ. Just like, fuck. But that doesn't mean that we're not on the upswing. We're on the upswing. So look, here's reality. We're on the upswing, and we're responding to it. China responded to it. They're like this. So that's reality. Jesus Christ. It already hit another part of the world, and then they dealt with it, and now it's going away. It's hitting us now. We're dealing with it. Eventually, it's going to go away. That's reality. Fuck. I'm not going to give in to the whole fucking, panic until you pee fucking mentality. Like, fucking, what the fuck? Climate change is way more panic inducing than coronavirus, okay? The fact that our entire civilization is going to collapse in the next decade due to climate change, just because it's not like sitting on our faces right now, that's way more panic inducing. And even that has a hard time producing enough panic in me right now. But all right, I might be wrong. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe they're faking. I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. We'll see. I mean, if it comes back, that's a different If it comes back, that's a different story. South Korea did the right thing by tracking every contact of the sick. Yes. Exactly. So China and South Korea ramped up their reaction to it, right? They had infections, they had, cases going up, and then they did what they needed to do, and then they took care of it, and then now it's on the other side. Blah. Yeah. Exactly. Trish Kaiser, thank you. Climate is sitting on our faces right now. It's sitting on our heads right now. There are things that are really in the wings waiting to, take us down. And look, there could be, as I read in an article yesterday, there could be another virus, there could be another illness that is, way worse than, it could be like Ebola and coronavirus combined. Like we could actually have something like that happen. And that could be exacerbated by climate change. Yes, that could happen. I'm just saying this particular coronavirus right now, it's bad, it's scary, it's ugly. But it's, we already saw the other side to it. So yeah, anyways. I mean, if you guys want to, yeah, okay. Well, the cases are down because they're in lockdown. When it's lifted, it comes right back. How do you know it comes right back? How do you know? How do you know that? So South Korea is not in lockdown, and their cases are going down. They're not in lockdown. South Korea is not locking everybody down. They're testing everybody, and their cases are going down. I'm just saying. I'm not downplaying or naysaying the seriousness of the virus. I'm saying that, it's not a forever and ever thing. People are getting sick. People are recovering. Cases are going down in places where they already have, infrastructure in place. They closed all the temporary hospitals in China, by the way. They closed them. So, Poppy Davis, what happens when the shutdown is over? You think it's gone? The virus? I don't know. I don't think it's, gone, but it's not ramping up. I don't know. Natural progressive, eventually you build herd immunity. Yeah, and eventually, and you also have things in place like pandemic, task force, right? The task force that Trump, supposedly dissolved. When he took office, right? He dissolved this office of, pandemic response or whatever it was. So he dissolved this team and he let everybody go, right? So you don't have things in place in order to deal with this. That's a problem, right? So this is happening. We're gonna ramp up our thing about it, our response to it. We're gonna ramp up, testing and taking care of people, right? And when the virus starts waning, we're gonna have, they're gonna have to, leave something in place for this, right? They're gonna have to leave a pandemic response team. They're gonna have to leave. Healthcare situations in place for people. It's not, so, whatever. Maybe. Jesse Daly, South Korea is contact tracing and testing. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It's Renee Michelle says, to those who say humans don't affect climate, witness the clear sky, cleaner water as we stayed home. Indeed, enjoying the clear sky, the lack of CO2 emissions, the very clean, crisp air that I'm breathing in right now. It feels lovely. I can feel it. That's the silver lining to this is, you know, CO2 emissions not being pumped into the atmosphere end on end on end on end. Renee Michelle, better food, clean water, and air. The dude says there's simply too much we do not know and cannot know yet. I agree. I totally agree with you. We don't know. We don't know. But I mean, I just, there's a healthy balance of like, let's take this seriously. Let's, but let's, not, let's not have head explosions right now. That's not really going to be helpful. Prudhomme says clear sky. It's been pouring with rain for 6 months here in Blighty. Yeah, it's actually been pouring rain here for the last couple of weeks, and it looks like it's going to pour rain again today. I've actually got to go, guys, because I'm trying to catch some of this, a little bit of sunlight so I can expose some t-shirt screens. But I'm going to be back on at 5 p.m. Pacific tonight with Natural Progressive on her channel. So if you guys want to come check us out, hang out with us, we can do some talking then. But thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I'm going to interview Kevin Hester tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be live or not. If it's not live, you will see it tomorrow, late morning, early afternoon. So hope to see you all then. Peace out.